Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to my channel. I am Crystal, and this is Homemaking on the Homestead. And today is Friday, and it's time for a little coffee with Crystal. If you watched my Tuesday video, it was on Jesus is enough, and how sometimes when we walk through difficult times, we need to remember that He is enough. His grace is sufficient. And I want to kind of continue on that in a little different way, is how to deal with homemaking during hard times. And this one is going to be sharing a few more practical tips and just kind of discussing that along with all the other things that we enjoy discussing. So, ladies, grab your cup of coffee and let's chat. I have so enjoyed the fact that we are now on the other side of that big old storm and things are melting, temperatures are coming up, even saw some temps in the 40s the last couple days, so it's like, yay, you know, the snow has slowed them out, but that's okay. And best of all, we don't have any new storms cropping up in the forecast, so that might be the big one, and we might just move on now with our regular typical rain and gray skies. So what do you ladies have going on in your kitchens today? I have a batch of cookie dough, peanut butter oatmeal cookie dough, and I put it together yesterday with the intention of making the cookies, and then it just didn't work out. No problem. I covered it up and put it in the refrigerator. So today, this morning, I've already pulled it out so it'll kind of come up to room temperature. And I'm going to make a batch of peanut butter oatmeal cookies. I really want to make a batch of date nut bread as well. It's such a great recipe and so easy to make. In fact, it was shared by one of you ladies a couple years ago, and I have made it so many times. I buy the chopped dates in the bulk section at Winco. I buy the chopped pecans in the bulk section as well, and then I just keep it in the freezer. So anytime I want to make the bread, I can just pull those out, let them defrost, and move forward. But how much of the goodies do we actually need, and will we get through? However, with cookies, I seem to go through cookies pretty quickly because I have grandkids that come and visit, or I put them in the freezer, or I take them with me and give them away when we go visit family and things like that. So I always like having cookies in the freezer. So who knows? Maybe I'll do both. So my next question, as usual, is what's for dinner? I don't have a lot going on in that direction today because yesterday I cooked up a pot roast and potatoes and carrots, and that was in the oven for several hours on a nice low temperature. And so we got to eat that last night, and we're going to eat that again tonight. That was the reason I couldn't get the cookies made, is because my oven was being preoccupied by a pot roast. So it's okay. I also thought I would just share with you guys real quickly my menu plan for the next several days. I do this periodically where I just, kind of look what's in my refrigerator, what kind of things do I need to use up, what do I have in my freezer, and I create a menu plan based on that. And, usually that will last us 5 or 6 days. I plan 3 meals at a time, and that gives me also time if I have to go to the store and get anything. But usually I really try to focus on eating what's in my pantry and what's in my freezer. That way, when I do go grocery shopping, I'm usually just kind of replacing those items. Anyway, so I had a half of a jar of spaghetti sauce, pasta sauce, that I need to use up. So I am going to be putting pizza on my menu. I also have an already made pizza crust dough, a ball of dough in my freezer, so I'm going to do that. I was going to try to do that several days ago, and then I just never got to it. We had bought other food, and so now I am putting that pizza on our menu. And of course, tonight is that leftover pot roast. And I have a feeling I will have more potatoes and more carrots left than we will probably eat tonight. And there may be even some leftover of the roast beef as well. So my idea was to kind of turn that into a soup. And if it doesn't make a big pot of soup, that is okay. I will probably add in some of the pepperoni bread that I made recently. that has been in the freezer. So we could have that soup, pepperoni bread, and maybe a salad to go with that. So that will stretch my pot roast out to at least 3 meals with a few other things added in there. So that's not too bad. Okay, and then I have already cooked Jimmy Dean sausage in my freezer. And if you guys saw that video, I showed you I was doing some meal prep, and when I buy those, they come in my Costco, they come in these big 3-pound packages, the Jimmy Dean sausage. And typically what I do is I just cook it up all at once, divide it into Ziploc bags, and put it in my freezer. So I have one of those down there. So I am going to just probably saute up some onions and whatever other veggies I might have in my refrigerator. I'm going to add the sausage to that and then toss that all with a whole lot of garlic and some pasta, like linguine or fettuccine type pasta or something like that. And so that'll just be a sausage and pasta dish, and make a salad to go on the side. Okay, that is my tentative menu plan that I have coming up, and I would love to know what is on your menu, and how do you menu plan? What is your method? Of course, we're all at different stages. When I had all my kids at home and cooking new meals every night, then my menu planning looked a whole lot different than it does today with just 2 of us, and we don't eat big, huge meals, so things will tend to last us several days. So how do you menu plan, and what kind of things do you have on your menu for this upcoming week? I got so many wonderful comments on my video on Tuesday on Jesus is Enough. And, I talked about doing life when things get hard, and knowing that His strength in our life and His direction and His grace is enough, because sometimes we're just not able to do the things that need to be done for whatever reason. We all have gone through, I'm pretty sure, we all have gone through seasons in our life where you were having to overcome some sort of struggle, whether it was health related, family related, it could be anything. And during those times, the home can tend to kind of start to crumble, deteriorate a bit, and it becomes very overwhelming. And here you are dealing with an issue that has taken a huge position in your life, and the home is not being cared for, and you're beginning to feel overwhelmed. I felt this way a lot when my kids were young because just having 8 kids, homeschooling them all, I homeschooled all of 8 of them all the way through high school, and that was quite the job, and it would oftentimes mean that the house would start to fall apart, and I would start to feel overwhelmed, and then I would have to kind of pull things back together. But also health problems, that's one thing that as we all get more birthdays behind us, that it becomes more of something that can affect us. And so I'm going to tell you a quick little story of a time not that long ago, maybe 6-7 years ago, that I was definitely struggling. I had double vision. It had started happening prior to that, and I went to my eye doctor, and at first he gave me prism glasses. They're the ones that can kind of correct your double vision, so I could wear those when I was driving. And that worked for a little while, but slowly my eyesight continued to deteriorate, and the double vision got worse and worse. And it finally got to the point where it could no longer be corrected by prism glasses. And it was about that time that my eye doctor said, you know what, we need to get you to your doctor and, maybe have him send you out different places to try to determine why your vision is deteriorating and why you have double vision. So first of all, if you've ever been through a process of going to your doctor and then he refers you to this specialist and he refers you to that specialist, it is a long and lengthy process. Sometimes you have to wait months to get into that doctor to see. And so that was the case. I had to have all these things ruled out before I could finally be sent to an eye specialist, which I was. So there's a big university hospital not far from where I live, and I was finally sent to their eye clinic. And it did not take long, other than the months trying to get in, and for the first doctor to say, yes, this is your problem. Yay, okay, now I knew. However, I now had to wait months to get to the specialist that would do the surgery to help me deal with that problem. And in between all of that, I also had bleeding ulcers that I did not know about until I ended up in the hospital for that. And that was causing severe anemia, which meant I had no energy. And I literally just struggled to function every single day. And it was very depressing because I did not realize I had anemia. And so the whole concept of never being able to get enough sleep, never being able to have the energy you need in a day to just do some of the basic things was very depressing. And that whole time period, which probably took place over the course of a couple of years, was some of the most hardest days that I've really ever walked through. And I think as I watched my house fall apart and I saw that I couldn't do the things that I really needed to do, I developed a few strategies to try and help me through that time. And that's what I really want to share with you today, is these strategies of trying to get through difficult times. I think one of the main things too that I'm just going to reiterate is that God is going to meet us right where we at, and right where we are at. He knows what we are going through. He knows what we are dealing with, and He knows our struggles, and we're going to have to rest in His grace. Life is not always perfect. We are not always able to hop up every day, check off that to-do list, move forward in the day. And when we do have days like that, make sure we all take time to say thank you, Jesus, because those days don't always exist for everybody, and they don't always exist all the time for people going through difficult times. Rest in Him and know that He is giving you a tremendous amount of grace as you walk through very difficult times. One of the other things that really stuck out to me at that time, basically out of necessity, is the understanding that it is okay to simplify things. It is okay to take things down to like a bare bones minimum. What is the most important? I had to basically write out a list that said, these items in my home and in my day are the most important to me. I simplified that and had that down to a very basic level. Make sure the laundry is done and there's food on the table, and my kitchen is clean. Maybe my floors, vacuumed and swept, and maybe not even mopped all the time, but at least, everything and things were fairly orderly as I could make them. And of course, I couldn't complete all of that all of the time. And that's where we have to also give ourselves that grace that God has already given us, is that if things cannot be orderly all the time because you're going through something, or you have a house full of young children and it just can't be orderly all the time, that is okay. And you need to know that that is okay. We need to set our standard and our level in a place that we can actually achieve it. That was a really difficult one for me too. So double vision, and mine was very severe, so double vision makes it very hard to do even the simplest tasks, because you're basically seeing two of everything and they're overlapping. Yes, I could cover an eye, and I would do that at home, but then I was dealing with depth perception issues. Now, if I had kept my eye covered probably all the time, I would adjust. My one eye would adjust to that, but I didn't, and because it was difficult to want to do that and to do that, and so when I would cover one eye, I had depth perception issues. So it made it hard to chop food, do things that required precision. It made it difficult for me to even walk because I couldn't see where the road was uneven. Sometimes I couldn't tell where curbs were. So I had to always be really careful. So it takes most of the basic things and made it much more difficult for me. So I had to have a level of simplicity that I could live with. And I had to focus on the things that I could do and not focus on all the things that I could no longer do. So if you're going through overwhelmed times, my first advice is to make out your bare bones list of things that are the most important to you. And if you have things in your home that are really bothering you, areas that need your attention, that really need to be taken care of, tackle those first to the best that you can. And get those things under control. Do whatever it is that you can do. Continue to move forward. I think it's also really important during difficult times to ask for help. Sometimes we need to do that. And I know for myself, I'm a very independent person, and I rarely ask for help. I've even had friends who, later on would be like, well, why didn't you ask me? I would have been more than happy to come and help you. And I just don't do that. And I think that that's always a tough one to get over the hurdle. But I really, if you're a person like me, I really recommend that when you need the help, ask for help. And maybe it's, your husband. You just have to say, hey, I cannot get to this because of this reason. Could you please help me with this? Also, if it is in your budget, there's nothing wrong with paying for some help. And I'm not talking about a cleaning service that might come in once a week unless you want that. If your budget allows that and that would help you get through this overwhelming time for you, do that. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be the young girl next door, down the street. It could be somebody in your church. It could be a stay-at-home mom that could use a little bit of extra money in her budget, and you would be helping her out maybe as well as helping yourself out. Have a list of things that you want done when they come and give them those jobs to do to help you out and to make the weight of what you're carrying less. I think when we are in these overwhelmed situations, it is such a heavy burden to carry, and we feel it so much. So, that's why I say, get your bare bones basic list. Write the things that bother you the most down on a sheet of paper and try to deal with those as you are able to. Enlist help. If you have children at home, have them help you. There is nothing wrong with children learning to give of their time and their energy to go above and beyond to help in the home and to help out their mother if it is a difficult time, because they themselves are going to be dealing with life as adults at some point. And so teaching them the compassion and the desire to give them the desire to help when necessary, and simplify during those times. You see me in my videos and I am baking bread and I am making meals from scratch and I am making my own granola and I am doing all these things and because I love doing those things. But when I was going through my issues, I didn't do any of those things. There is nothing wrong with simplifying your menu, simplifying your cooking, and doing something that fits in your ability to conquer every day. So it takes a lot of energy and effort and time to be in the kitchen and to be doing all these things, and maybe you just can't. You don't have the time, you don't have the energy, the physical strength, or whatever it might be. It is okay to buy your bread. It is okay to buy your soup at the store. It is okay, to buy some convenience foods for yourself as you go through these times. It's also good to look at them. For the most cases, I believe, these overwhelming times will not last forever. You will get on the other side of it and be able to move forward. I know that was at least the case for me. And while my healing took a long time, I had my surgery. I had surgeries for both issues, and I had a lengthy healing time, and I finally was able to take those steps forward again and you get on the other side. You never will believe how happy I was the first day I had the energy to pick a broom up and sweep my kitchen floor. I was like, yes, I'm coming back. Anyway, they won't last forever. So what we are needing is the grace, that grace that the Lord gives us, and that grace that we need to give ourselves to get through your overwhelming times the very best that you can. Because at the end of the day, doing your very best is all that you're going to be able to do. And you need to realize that God's going to meet us right where we're at. And He's going to give us the strength to be able to do what it is that we are able to do. And He has given us everything. But mostly He's given us His grace, His strength, and His power. I'm going to read you a scripture verse right now. So we all know that Paul had some sort of physical problem. The Bible isn't clear about that. He calls it a thorn in his flesh. He asked many times that the Lord would take it away, and it did not happen. So I'm going to read to you this from 2 Corinthians 12, 8 and 9, and this is Paul talking about that thorn in his flesh. And he said, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. You know, that beautiful, beautiful scripture verse to remember that his grace is sufficient. And to also remember that when we go through these difficult times, I believe personally that the Lord teaches us things. He gives us lessons. He gives us life lessons for our spiritual growth, for our growth in him. He gives us lessons on trust. He gives us lessons on faith. He uses this time in our life to such a huge degree. And maybe we don't even realize it until we're partway through the issue or we're over on the other side of the issue. But he is using that for our own spiritual growth. Because we all know that nothing goes to waste with Christ. Nothing goes to waste. He uses our life to refine us and for us to be able to grow. And even these difficult times, that's what's happening on the sideline. And I always think of the other side of it too, is that when you go through that, you also have a testimony on the other side. Just like I'm sharing mine with you today. You have a testimony being on the other side, seeing what God has accomplished and knowing that you can make it through overwhelming, difficult times. Get very practical with your life. Get very practical with what you can accomplish and what you can't accomplish. Pray for God's strength and pray that he directs your footsteps to do the most important things and that he takes that weight off of you and allows you to rest in his grace and his strength. Okay, ladies, so you tell me, how have you made it through difficult times? What are some of the biggest things that you struggled with when you did go through difficult times or overwhelming times as a homemaker? And how have you seen God work in your life? That would be such an amazing conversation to have and such a great testimony from you guys as you share, so that others can read that and be encouraged, especially if they are going through hard times or overwhelming times. But okay, I have a big to-do list today that I need to tackle before it gets too overwhelming for me. And I am so glad that you came today to visit with me and have your cup of coffee with me. You guys are the most amazing group of encouraging ladies I have ever been a part of, and I cannot thank you all enough. Give me a comment. Let's get the conversation going. Okay, ladies, I hope you all have an awesome and blessed weekend, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.